I have always preferred the periphery. In my career as a senior archivist, my value lies in being the person who remembers where the bodies, or rather, the original deeds, are buried. My life was quiet, stable, and respected. Then I met Julian Vane. Julian was the kind of man who didn't walk into a room, he was welcomed into it. He was the head of the Historical Preservation Society, a man of silver hair and golden tone. Everyone loved Julian because Julian made everyone feel like they were part of an exclusive club. The trouble began when I noticed a discrepancy in the endowment fund for the East Wing restoration. It was small, $12,000, moved under the guise of consulting fees to a firm that didn't seem to exist. When I brought the file to Julian's office, he didn't get angry. He sighed, leaned back, and looked at me with a pained, fatherly expression. "Arthur," he said softly, "I've been meaning to talk to you. I've noticed you've been struggling lately. Forgetful. A bit paranoid. I worry the workload is getting to you." I wasn't struggling. I was holding a receipt. But within a week, the narrative had shifted. I would walk into the break room and the conversation would die. My colleagues, people I'd known for a decade, began looking at me with the look, that tilted head expression of pity. Julian was concerned about me. He told the board he was worried about my mental decline. He told my assistant he was keeping a close eye on my erratic behavior to protect me from making a career-ending mistake. He wasn't attacking me, he was shielding me. When I tried to defend myself at the quarterly meeting, Julian simply put a hand on my shoulder. "It's okay, Arthur. We're all friends here. Why don't you take the afternoon off?" The board nodded. They saw a benevolent leader managing a fragile, aging employee. They didn't see the man who was systematically draining the preservation fund. That was the night I sat in my darkened office and realized the truth. My facts didn't matter because Julian owned the ears of the people listening. In a world of narratives, the truth is just noise unless it's amplified by the right speaker. I stopped explaining myself that day. I finally understood who was listening, and more importantly, who wasn't. For the next 18 months, I became the person Julian told everyone I was. I played the role of the fading archivist. I was quiet. I was slightly disorganized. I apologized for forgetting things. I became invisible, which is the most dangerous thing an archivist can be. Julian grew comfortable. He stopped hiding the files when I entered the room. He viewed me as a broken tool, a spent force. Because he was so concerned for my well-being, he gave me a decorative role overseeing the digitizing of the Society's private correspondence, a job he thought was busy work. It wasn't. I didn't just digitize. I cross-referenced. I built a private server. Every time Julian used the Society's credit card for a discreet dinner with a local politician, I logged it. Every time he promised a donor's name would be on a plaque and then diverted the funds to his consultancy, I saved the email. I watched him become reckless. His arrogance was his oxygen. He began making jokes about my incompetence during gala speeches, always followed by a warm, "But we love him anyway." He was so busy polishing his halo that he didn't notice the dirt he was kicking up. I waited. I didn't need a gotcha moment. I needed a systemic collapse. I studied the Society's bylaws, specifically the clause regarding the annual independent audit required for federal grant eligibility. Julian had been handpicking the auditor for years. I didn't call the police. I didn't call the board. I simply waited for the federal grant application window to open. I quietly tipped off the Federal Oversight Committee, not about Julian, but about the Society's potential for modernization. I suggested a mandatory third-party federal audit to ensure the Society's longevity. I spent my evenings at my kitchen table, matching his concern emails with his actual bank transfers. I had 412 time-stamped contradictions. By the end of the second year, Julian's narrative was a towering skyscraper built on sand. He thought I was the sand. He didn't realize I was the tide. The collapse was silent. The federal auditors didn't make a scene. They walked into the Society offices at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Julian wasn't there. He was at his favorite bistro, likely charm-offending a new donor. When they asked for the ledgers, I didn't hesitate. I didn't look nervous. I handed them a tablet preloaded with the private server I had built. I told them, in my confusion, I might have organized these a bit too thoroughly. You'll find the cross-references in folder 4B. I watched from my desk as the lead auditor's expression changed from professional boredom to sharp, focused intensity. Julian returned 2 hours later, laughing with the board chairman. When he saw the auditors in his office, his smile didn't falter. He went for the concern play immediately. "Ah, Arthur," he said, looking at me with that practiced pity. "You should have told me we had guests. I hope you didn't give them the wrong files in your estate." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The lead auditor looked up. "Mr. Vane, Arthur has been incredibly helpful. He's provided the original wire transfer authorizations and the corresponding email chains. We were just looking at the consulting payments to Vaneridge Holdings." Julian's face didn't turn red. It turned gray. The transition from charismatic leader to trapped animal happened in the space between two breaths. He looked at the board chairman, waiting for the protection that always came. But the chairman was looking at the screen. There was no shouting. There were no dramatic handcuffs in the lobby. There was just the slow, methodical removal of a man's life. Over the next month, the concern Julian had expressed for me was used as evidence of premeditated witness tampering. His helpfulness was revealed as a cover for grand larceny. The board didn't apologize to me. They were too embarrassed by their own gullibility. They simply offered me my pension and a quiet retirement. I saw Julian one last time 3 months later, leaving a courthouse. He looked smaller. The silver hair was unkempt. He looked at me, and for a second I think he wanted to say something, a final lie, a final charm, but he saw my face. He saw that I was still observing, still documenting, and still silent. He realized then that he never had control. He only had the illusion of it, and I was the one who had been holding the light. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. I went home, sat in my garden, and watched the sunset. I stopped checking his name in the news. That was how I knew it worked.